Okay, at this time it's my honor to introduce our next speaker on the benefits and / value to state and federal agencies, and that's Mr. Wolford.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, everybody still awake? Okay, good. Okay, I'm like the one person who is the non-WVU. I say non-WVU. I'm not really non-WVU because I've got my NRCS badge on, representing NRCS, and I'm a two-time alum of WVU. So we've got that covered, right? All right. Now, I don't have the data-rich presentation for you. Mine's going to be more about how we're going to work in terms of an agreement, partnership, how we're going to be able to work together on this, and a real opportunity to work on a place like Reymann Memorial Farm. Now, let's start. Let's see if we can get this to work. Now, I always like to start with a little bit, something that I found quite, think about it's a little bit ironic when you're at a crazy conference anyway. So, we look at this up here and we see it says, it's an absurd world. I'm a vegetarian and my main purpose in life is to be eaten by a non-vegetarian. So, here we are at a grazing conference, and this is the purpose, where everybody's talking about cows, and we're going to eat them, and we're talking about vegetarians. Just saying. All right, let's move on. This is a great opportunity, let me just say that on Reymann Memorial Farm, there are a lot of neat things, a lot of very interesting things. I'm not sure where you can go and find 900 plus acres, 925 acres, give or take, I believe it is. That's on the lower farm and the upper farm. We're only working on the lower farm right now, though. And this was a proposal, and we can look at woodland, we can look at pasture, hayland, cropland, the farmstead, which is also a very historical site. That's another part of this, as we look at this. And from an NRCS standpoint, too, when we plan, we're looking at everything. And that, we're looking at the house that's there, a very historical thing, and on the upper farms, some very historical things there as well. We look at some where I've got circled up here. We're looking at, the Capon. We're looking at some, we're looking at drainage in the Chesapeake. We're also looking at a lagoon that's there that one thing we'll be addressing very soon. I'll be making a trip to look at that as well. It is the home of the bull test for the state. The major thing that goes on there. So what we have the bull test, what do we have there? We have more than just bulls that show up there. They're there on a consistent basis. But that one big day a year, what happens? People. Okay. So we have all of these people who come into that farm, and they're going to see what's there. That's a great thing. It's going to be a bad thing, it could be a good thing. I see it as a real opportunity. Okay? Now, here's the real thing that comes into play. And as I've got a chance to really work with these gentlemen over here, and also have the opportunity to work with our local folks and work with Jerry Gates, who's the farm manager there as well. So, it says if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it. So, are we going to be able to change everything at that farm? We figure out every issue, every problem. There may be all the resource concerns are identified. Are we going to be able to fix and take care of everything? No, not a chance. But is there a chance to adapt to it and figure out what we can do? There may be things that we can do with existing things that are there. All right, some of the things that we think about in terms of a partnership, agreement that we're going to have, and being able to work with West Virginia University. Why? Why work together? Why work with your land grant institution? Why work with anybody? Why do we do that? We all know that right now, I don't care where you're at, if you're in the university system, if you're in the federal government, I don't care if you're private, if you're a farmer. The goal here is to be able to work together because we can't do it alone, folks. There is no way. Now, there's always this reluctance, I'll call it, to accept, and what we do is come out and we give you work on a conservation plan. We're going to give you some different approaches to things. Doesn't mean that all of them are going to be accepted. Doesn't mean that all of them are going to function maybe exactly like we think they will. We're going to hope to learn from those. Now, why do we have a plan? Why enter into agreements? Now, as we get all of these different groups together, we have already talked about the fact that anytime we get all of these different groups together in a room, what happens? It's hard, right? Well, this is one of the reasons why it's hard. It shouldn't be one of the reasons, but and it says that it's amazing to accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit. What happens? Everybody wants their share of the pie. Everybody wants the credit. What's our ultimate goal out there? Our ultimate goal with Reymann Memorial Farm is to hopefully take a place that we have the ability to maybe have a little bit more control over things, or have the ability to work on some things and generate data and hopefully move some of this stuff out to where it's going to do some good. Because if we keep it all there, and we keep all the data here, and we can come and listen to all the presentations we want, where does the data have to go? Where do we have to get that and manipulate it and put it out into the public where it can do some good? It's an extremely important part. Okay, value on a national level. Now, close to or within. Okay, we see right here that we are, I don't know, you can think this is a good thing or a bad thing. All right, you're close to Washington, D.C. You're in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. We're within roughly 120 miles of land grant institution and the state office where I'm located. We're close to major populations. And the other thing is if we want to have training and be able to use this as a training ground for people, we're in close proximity to airports. Okay. Roughly 120 miles here, give or take. I went with miles as opposed to driving time and hours because if you've ever driven from D.C. or you've driven from Morgantown or wherever, it's a little bit different. 120 miles is easy. If you're going 75 miles an hour on the interstate, it's an easy drive. Different story if you're going the other way. Okay? So you look at within this radius, we've got, you're looking at a lot of the Chesapeake area too. You've got Richmond, you've got Harrisburg, Morgantown, Pittsburgh, and the Baltimore, Washington area. All very within reach. Now some people go, hey, this is a great thing. This is not such a great thing if we're that close proximity, because what happens when you're that close to that big of a population? Same thing that happens when you have on that one day of the bull test. The bull sale comes. People. How many more people are coming through the Wardensville area now than they were 25 years ago? There's one for Paul. It's steady traffic coming through there. So we have a chance for people are going to see things. Now's an opportunity for us to show people and let them see what's there. Okay. Also an opportunity, and this ties back into something that's just recently happened the last few months. I'm going to go ahead and go on. 2018 Farm Bill. How many people know we have a Farm Bill? We actually had one. Okay? Well, this one's had some language that's a little bit different, a little hard to see, but it directly involves NRCS. Because what it wants us to do, it directly addresses in the Farm Bill that NRCS will assess. We have over 160 conservation practice standards. We will review our standards and we will, if needed, update those standards within a 2-year period. We have to do a review within the first year. It's the first time I can ever remember my 31 years working for the agency that we've ever had anything like this. It's a good thing, though. It's a positive thing for us to go back and look at this. This takes in agronomic standards, forestry standards, engineering standards. Okay? What are we looking for? Well, people out there are saying that we've looked at the standards. We need to look at things like, we need to look at our standards and see if we're addressing technology, soil health, water quantity and quality, and reduce nutrient runoff. Says that specific language in Farm Bill. Okay. I'm going to pick out two things. This is a lot of verbiage. It's huge, dude. I'm going to pull out two sentences real quick. Producers are also reluctant to introduce new conservation practices in the entire farming operation without first testing how they work in practice. So what are we doing? This is exactly what we talked about. And I think we're ahead of the game right now in our approach on that farm, on Reymann Memorial Farm. I think it's a great thing. It's a great approach. It's something we're already doing because this is kind of information that we can take and we can work it not only back into the university that they can use, we can work it back into our conservation practice standards that get utilized by state agencies, that get utilized by the public, who also utilize our conservation programs that are out there. And we can use it as a training ground, and we can use it for our planners who are younger and younger. I'm not going to be doing this many more years, hopefully. So somebody else is going to be doing this. So this is a good training ground for that, not just for West Virginia, but on a regional and national level. So keep that in mind. It also talks about the fact that managers intend that innovation trials take place on, I've got part of it cut off, but the main point of it is that we're looking for innovative ways to do this and working together on demonstration type work. What have we just talked about the last hour and a half, 2 hours? This is exactly what we're talking about. Okay. So we're looking to improve our national standards. We have another option that we talk about interim standards that we haven't really utilized a lot in the past years. I just come off being in D.C. And working there being in there and serving on some duties for 4 months. And it's amazing that we have how few of interim standards we have, which are those type of standards that we may look at something totally different. When we develop a standard we can look at for a period of 2 years, okay? And within that 2-year period, we look at it and see if it's worthy of becoming a practice. But this is where those people in there talking about in the Farm Bill utilize interim standards. So we as an agency need to look at the technology, and sometimes it's not new technology. Sometimes we need to go back and look at the older way of doing things, because it's not necessarily the older way. Sometimes it's a better way that we forgot already, that we need to bring back. So we have many regional and national training opportunities. Like I said, you saw we're in proximity to a lot of airports. We can bring people in. You can see that. And we need to take advantage. Okay, state level. Chesapeake Bay watershed. We've already talked about impairments. We've talked about 303D listing. We've talked about the fact that we're within such close proximity to being in D.C., huge populations. And if any of you make that drive, I make it several times going east, is that you'll see, I mean, once you drive it, that's all it takes. Drive into Annapolis, on past Annapolis, over the Bay Bridge, into the Delmarva. Folks, you're going to, then you start to see just what's going on and why it's such a big deal. So, we can provide multi-state and multi-state training, and I'm hoping that can be for everyone. We can look at, our younger populations that are coming on, people we can bring in, extension, we can look at NRCS, our state conservation agencies. Everybody like this we can utilize, and we can hold trainings there. We do need to look at, one thing we've got to look at, and has been discussion on, is where do we put them when we have a training there. You can always bring a tent, not a problem. Just watch for the ticks, because the last time I was there, I only took 23 off, but that's a little bit of a problem. Now, and this we talked about already, this high visibility, location of the state bull test, a lot of people coming through there, a lot of people who come through on a regular basis anyway, driving through Gordonsville. Oh yeah, here we go. And I always have to stick in under why again. It says we're hiring a director of change management to help employees embrace strategic changes. Okay? Dilbert. We can come up with strategies that make sense, and then employees that embrace the change. That sounds hard. Of course it does. Let's do, why go back to the simplistic way of doing things here and actually work with people? And we've gotten away from that a lot. We as an agency have, we know that, and it's tough. Luckily, I can come out and I can talk to you right here, and hopefully we can bring in people like this, and a lot of times this is the only venue we have. It's a better venue than not having one at all. Not like we used to do with a lot of follow-up and getting out and seeing farmers on a daily basis. Okay, another thing, and I want to thank two key people, one from WVU, that would be Jerry Gates, who's given me a great deal of his time from the Reymann Memorial Farm. And, Jerry, anybody who knows him and wants to talk to Jerry, he'll be happy to tell you what he thinks. There's no doubt about it. Okay? So, but in that is a good thing, because when I sit down with him, there are a lot of things that come out. It's not just me showing up and I know nothing about the area, I know nothing about the farm, things from a historical perspective and situational knowledge that exists. And then we also need to bring in our local NRCS people at the field office who are doing really boots on the ground doing the work. And the other thanks goes to Adam Boner, who's the soil conservationist in the Franklin field office, who's done a great deal of work on this and has been doing a lot of the day-to-day type work. Those are really the key. I'm sitting up here giving you this. This is the easy stuff. Going out on the ground is the other thing. And that's where we do the work, and that's what makes a difference. And also up here, that we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created it. We got to think out of the box, even though we keep trying to be stuffed back in the box. I don't like living in the box. Okay? Okay, and the other thing is, and this is where it comes in good with Jerry, who's telling me some things that I'm thinking to myself, this should work out there. And then I find out that what we need to do, never tell people how to do things. Tell them what to do, and they will surprise you with their ingenuity. Now, some of those same things are ingenuity that we can bring back and put in interim practices. Really important. And these are not new concepts. So these are the same concepts we've been using forever. So, we can have field days. We can talk in groups and try to figure out things. We can actually get out and walk the fields and see what's out there. Sometimes when you're in a group, you can't always think. Sometimes you need to evaluate it yourself. You need to be that lone. You need to be kind of a loner who walks off and takes a look around the place to start figuring out problems. Because if everyone is thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking. Okay? Case in point. So, there's many things to be solved there. I hope to see great things come of this. I look forward to being a part of it. And my contact information is here. Like I said, special thanks to these folks, these two gentlemen, who gave a lot of their time initially last year to sit down and help educate me. Because I can't do my job without them providing me and doing to do my job. So my thanks to them, my thanks to WVU and our ability to work there, and thanks to my NRCS folks who allow us to go out and do this kind of work. And we also have state agencies involved with this, if I've left anybody out. So it's greatly appreciated, and we look for good things coming down the road.